Welcome, everybody. Good morning. Thank you for coming along on this very sunny morning, actually. It's lovely weather. My name's Kerry. Lovely to have you with me for our Writing Effective Journal Articles session. And we will get started straight away. Um, let's go. So just to begin, QT acknowledges the Turrbal and Yagara as the First Nations owners of the lands where QT now stands. We pay respects to their elders, laws, customs, and creation spirits, and recognise these lands have always been places of teaching, research, and learning. And QT acknowledges the important role Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people play within the QT community. Excuse me, sorry. Okay, so I always send out the resources to you with all the links and everything. If you miss something today in the chat, I'll send them all out to you. Should be this afternoon, but if not, it'll be tomorrow. And I'll upload the slides for you in a second. And for some reason, my chat keeps disappearing. All right, there we go. All right, so our goals for today, what have we got? Two, improve your writing skills and write quality research articles to submit for publication, and engage in some article writing activities to help you get started on a draft article. You might already have a start, have a draft in progress or not. That's okay. And as we work through, just keep in mind that your field of study and your target journal will have specific requirements. What we talk about as far as writing practices will still apply, but always keep in mind that we're all from different fields. So consider what your needs are. If you have an in progress draft, you might like to open it up and make some notes as we go. Um, and hopefully by the end, you'll be motivated and you'll have some really good ideas on either how to get started or to keep going. All right, so we're going to recap a few basics because this one today is a follow-on from our principles of research article writing, which I did, ooh, probably about a month ago, I think, potentially. It all comes into a blur. So then we'll look at the strategies and look at some ways to improve your writing. So now the principles one, that's the spiel there, demystifies the article writing process and guides you in establishing effective writing habits to achieve publishing goals. If you'd like that one, the PowerPoints or recording, just email me and let me know and I can send that out to you. Because these, we deliver all of our workshops twice a year. So obviously these are the second ones. So we're also going to have exemplars today. Please don't be put off because the exemplars won't be in your research area. I can pretty much guarantee that because I need to choose exemplars that we can all understand, you know. So don't be put off by that. It's actually that the content won't matter. It's we're looking at the effective writing practices. We're analyzing and discussing them. So please engage because it's a really important part of these sessions. Yes, the other thing, the star. So, as I said, you're coming from different fields of study, but you already know stuff, okay? Maybe some of you have already published. Maybe you're on almost finished and ready to submit, but either way, your knowledge and expertise around your field of study and writing are useful and valuable. So think about those as we're going along. So with your draft article, I always recommend you do a save as just so you can write some notes in for later. You will run out of time during the session for the activities that we do, but that's why I give you all of the resources so you can keep going on with them afterwards. There's a Q&A at the end, but please put the questions as we go through. It's been working really well to do it that way. just if I can't get to your specific question straight away, I will get to it. So pop them in the chat as we go through. And one of the reasons why I deliver these two workshops is because I also designed and I deliver this Write Your Journal Article in 12 Weeks module. We're halfway through right now. We're actually in our break week after the first 6 weeks. Potentially, some of you have already done that module, but it doesn't matter if you haven't. Not everyone can do a 12-week module at every stage of the candidature, but have a think about it if that might be something useful for you in 2026. We deliver it twice. Yes, it is 12 weeks, but if you want to write a journal article and get it published, you're gonna need to spend a fair bit of time on that. But yeah, the module gets really good evaluations, and I really love it. I get to spend 12 weeks with a whole lot of wonderful researchers. There's a big component of it around getting a community of practice because everybody in the module is working towards similar goals. So, yeah, do that one if you can next year. Rightio, now over to you. So, just to start thinking, again, as always with these, there's no right or wrong, but in light of the goals we have today, let's get right to the point. What is your motivation to publish? Don't worry about putting them in the chat. Just write a few notes. And I mean, obviously you are motivated or you're thinking that you'd like to publish. As I said, some of you maybe already have, which is wonderful. So once you are very clear about your motivation to publish, then think about your motivation to come today. Maybe as well, there's obstacles that are preventing you from getting published. Generally, those obstacles are around time and finding the time. So we do touch on that a little bit today. But there's a range of other obstacles that we may all come across at different stages. If you can name those obstacles, then that's one of the things you hopefully get out of today then is some ideas. Okay, yes, I've named my obstacle, but I've learned some ideas or I'm able to come up with some strategies as to how I can overcome those obstacles or at least address them. So as we go through and we are doing some of the activities today, if you're not very far through your candidature or you haven't collected data yet, that's not necessarily an obstacle because that's just all part of, that research process. So it's not so much about that. It's more about, well, with the activities today, are you stuck? If you're stuck, why are you stuck? And how you might address them. So I'm just going to give you a minute to have a think about those. As I said, no right or wrong. This is about you. No need to share. I think we'll be sharing later anyway. All right, I'll give you a minute. And I'm going to upload the PowerPoints for you too. All right, so we've just had someone in the chat with a fair comment to say, I'm familiar with my topic that I want to write on, but I'm yet to find the research gap. Now, the gap is not the most important thing. Yes, you do need to find a gap. So don't say to anyone, Kerry said I don't need to find a gap because that's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is it's the research problem. Okay, and the research problem is all about your stakeholders. There is something happening to your stakeholders that you want to find a solution for. It can be about money, it can be about outcomes, it can be about a million different things, better processes, best practice, all those things. And then from there, there's a gap in the knowledge. So we don't have a solution for this problem at this stage. And therefore, that would mean there's a gap in the knowledge. So really be clear that it starts with the problem. Now, this is for your candidature for whatever your PhD is going to be about. And of course, when you're writing a research article. So start with the problem that will lead you to the gaps. Okay. Another question about AI. That's a good one as well. Do you think it reduces the chance I can get my manuscript published in top ranking journals? Excellent question. We will talk very briefly about this. What you need to do is go into each of your journals or go to the publisher of that journal and see what their policies are. They are changing all the time. All right. So, just I think regarding, so Grammarly, Grammarly is one of those ones that we've had for a long time, but it's now often thought of as an AI tool. But again, see what your specific journal says. Copilot is an LLM, large language model, so that's definitely one that you would have to keep track of exactly what you're doing. So great question, and the short answer is go check with the journals themselves or the publishers. All right, great. So you've got your motivation to publish. Maybe you've got no obstacles. Great. That's perfect. If you do, that's okay, because most of us do. So we'll think about how we're going to address those obstacles. All right, let's get some article writing basics. So this is a little recap from the previous workshop, but it's very condensed. Righto, let's start with why do articles not get accepted, and in particular, desk rejected. So that's not something you want. And to be honest, there's two main reasons why an article would get desk rejected. And which are they here? Yes. Third point, doesn't fit journal scope or not adhering to author guidelines. Can you believe that that's one of the number one reasons for desk rejection? Not adhering to the author guidelines. Doesn't fit the journal scope, yes, for sure, but I'm hoping you're not going to send it to one that where it doesn't fit the journal scope. If you're unsure about whether it does fit, write a little letter to the editor. Hey, got this research article. This is what it is. It's your abstract. Does it fit your scope? And then you know for sure. Okay, but you should be able to tell from researching the journal. But that not adhering to author guidelines, it's crazy to me that that is one of the main reasons people get desk rejected. And I wonder if anyone would like to jump in here. My thoughts are that either they didn't know that they needed to, or sometimes the author guidelines are quite, what's the word, sort of take ages to understand. And there's a lot of fiddling around if they want things done a certain way. And there's usually a lot of steps to get there, to get what they want. So not always, but oftentimes. So that third point there is one of the main reasons for desk rejections, like both those things that doesn't fit the journal scope or doesn't adhere to author guidelines. The other ones are more likely to still get passed to a reviewer, but then rejected from there. And that's different to, oh, we like your article, but we want you to make these changes. Okay, that's not a rejection, is it? That's we don't mind this, but here's some things we would like you to do to improve it. That's a positive thing. Getting feedback from reviewers, even if you don't always agree with it, is still useful for your research skills and your writing and that whole understand getting good at that whole process. All right, so most of these, other than dot point three, are about being rejected, not accepted, or not sent back for revision. So, central argument not clear. The reader, reviewers, the editor don't know exactly what your point is. What are you arguing here? So, obviously, that's bad. Findings not clearly situated within the current body of knowledge. Okay, so what's that about? What are we talking about the current body of knowledge? It's the literature, right? So you are not the only person researching this research field, area, topic. Think of a wall. Okay, you're putting a brick in the wall, and therefore you need to align in some ways or at least take notice of the other bricks. Okay. We've already talked about journal scope and author guidelines, essential that you adhere to those. Lack of detail in the methodology and methods, that's an interesting one. So, again, really important that you go and check your journal, your target journal, and make sure you're very clear about how much information do they need. In a science or health journal, potentially a lot of detail. In maybe in in other fields of study, there's less. It's more focused on the lit review and the findings. You've got to double check what your journal needs. Assumptions made without evidence, well, that's obviously not good. Lack of critical analysis of the literature. Okay. So, remembering what critical analysis means, pulling it all apart and telling us all about what's been happening, what have other researchers been doing, and why do we still have this problem. Too many findings or ideas. This is a very common one. Lack of focus is confusing. So, you want to really narrow your topic within your PhD or your MPhil potentially. You probably can't put it all. There's too much. It's a big document. Your journal article's probably only about, I don't know, less than 10,000 words. Maybe it's eight, seven. Okay. So you can't, you're better off to talk a lot and go deeply into something narrow. Okay. So from your PhD, you could probably write three, four, five articles potentially. That's why people do publication, isn't it? Okay, so we don't want too much in this article. And then the last one is not answering the research questions clearly. Okay, so we can again see, yeah, that checks out. That would be a problem. Okay, so we're not going to do any of those things. And our reviewers and editors will not look like the lady in the image. All right, so what are they looking for then? And again, this is when we sort of set it out like this, it's pretty obvious, isn't it? A strong, clear argument supported by evidence. We're going to go deep into what that means shortly. An argument clearly situated within the current body of knowledge. Yeah. Okay. So basically, these are the opposite of the previous points, aren't they? An argument clearly situated within the current body of knowledge. Remember your brick. You're a brick in the wall. Claims for significance that state why the argument is important. Okay, so not just having an argument, why? Why do we care about this problem? Okay, so think of your argument as the problem. Why do we care about the problem you're investigating? So there's that persuasiveness coming in, isn't it? It needs to fit the scope and adhere to author guidelines. Obvious. Methodology clearly explained and justified. When I say methodology, I also mean methods. Clear presentation and interpretation of evidence. So, look, there's two things: presentation and interpretation, right? Well structured. Are you familiar with the IMRAD? Introduction, methods, results, and discussion. Yeah, it's usually the way they go. How would you find out if that's what your journal does? You'd go and look at some of the other articles in there. That's a really good way to structure your article by looking at previous publications from that journal. Readability. So, not making the reader work hard. Logical scaffolding of arguments and evidence. So, laying it all out in a clear, explicit, structured way. Strong opening, title, abstract, introduction. So, you know yourself when you're searching the literature, what's the first thing you see is the title. Okay, that can usually say, yeah, that's what that's interesting for my topic or that's off topic. And then we read the abstract, don't we? And then maybe you might not go to the introduction, maybe you go right to the conclusions or the discussion. But we need that strong opening and we need a strong conclusion as well. So, what do you think? There's not too much there, is there? It all seems pretty clear to me. Nothing seems overly like, how would I achieve that? Now, you're going to write quite a few drafts. to achieve what the reviewers are looking for, but that's okay. We know we are draft writers. That's what we do most of the time. Write drafts, get feedback, improve them. All right. So let's boil these points down to the two most important ones. So, principle one, clearly express your one key argument. Okay, so keep in your mind that the argument is your problem. You are arguing that there is a research problem, and that research problem is having an impact that we don't want. It's causing issues, and therefore we want to gain insight into the problem or insight into how to solve the problem. We want to come up with solutions and strategies potentially for the problem, depending on how big it is. All right. So, principle one, clearly express your one key argument. Now, notice my quote there is from Belcher. She's the author of Write Your Journal Article in 12 Weeks, so it makes sense that I'd be using her. There's a million journal article writing books out there. This is just the one that I love. Not to say I don't read other ones as well. A publishable article is one important new idea that is demonstrably related to the scholarship previously published. Articles are published because they say something new about something old. Okay, remember the brick in the wall. Something new about something old. So the something new is the fact that there's this problem that still hasn't been solved. Maybe other problems have been solved around about, but not this specific one. Okay, so that's what it means about in the scholarship previously published. All the people in your field, all the researchers in your field have been doing research, but not on your specific thing, right? But there's still things you can pull from the literature that are related, okay? Right. So, in the research context, an argument is a strategy of inquiry to formally examine a research problem. So, formally meaning you're going to put into place a robust and ethical research design. A clear, strong, persuasive, single significant idea you want to prove, which is supported by reasons and evidence. So you're convincing the readers the problem is urgent and challenging, so it negatively impacts stakeholders. So this is the problem is about the stakeholders, not the literature. Okay. When it talks about the scholarship previously published, yeah, the literature, but that literature talking about all the things around the problem that maybe other people have previously looked at different aspects of it. Maybe they've looked at a different research population or a different context. Okay, so the problem is still there. So it costs money. Could be done cheaper, faster, easier. Maybe it's about the environment. Maybe it's about better process, as I said. Maybe it's a health outcome. Maybe it's an learning outcome. Maybe it's something to do with teachers or students, or it could be 100 million things, right? You know that. A clear, strong, persuasive, single, significant idea supported by reasons and evidence. Okay, so this is all about the problem. You are arguing that despite other researchers doing things in the vicinity, this one problem has not been either ever looked at or hasn't been looked at to the extent that we need to help to solve it. Okay, so that's principle one. You need an argument, which is the problem, which is about the stakeholders. Principle two, clearly express the claims for significance. This is part of your persuasiveness. Why do we care about this problem? What's going to happen if we do get more insight, if we do happen to be able to solve it? Why is this important? Right. So another quote from Belcher, another good one. All journal articles exist in relation to other journal articles. The authority of your work lies in your ability to relate your argument to others' arguments. Okay? Remember the bricks in the wall? Your article, your argument is one of the bricks. So you're not working in isolation. You are working within a scholarship of knowledge, a field of study. Okay? And the evidence is all about building up. So, Brown and Jones and White have done all this research before, but they still didn't find this one thing that I'm looking for. What they did was good, but they didn't find this one thing. So, the claims for significance is your so what. So, the argument is saying there's a problem and here's my evidence for it. Okay. And then that's not enough. Why is this problem significant? Why is your study significant? What are you going to find? Who cares? Who cares about this problem? Who cares if, I don't know, well, who cares if PhD or higher degree research students find writing a thesis hard sometimes? Who cares about that? I don't know. I care, you care, your supervisors care, the university care. Do you see? So no matter what your problem is, you can always argue about why we should care. Okay? You obviously care enough to do a research project on it. So now convince the readers that they should care as well. Now, the other thing to remember too about your readers, I'm not talking about people who give you feedback along the way, but your ultimate readers of your thesis or a journal article, they will be somehow connected to your field, won't they? Okay. So they will have some idea of the problem, but you still need to persuade them to care about this specific problem that you have. So you've got a head start because they'll be slightly aware of this field of study, of course, right? But we still need to persuade them to come around to your thinking, to agree with your argument and go, yeah, I can see that that's something we should care about. So, why does the problem matter? Stakeholders. What's the impact on the stakeholders? And then that brings you to the gaps. Because if we still have the problem, we obviously don't have the level of body of knowledge that we need, right? So your research is going to help get us insight and solutions to the problem. And within that, you will then also add to the body of knowledge. So what I see a lot is it being all about the gap, right? Yes, you need to find a gap, but the gap is about the problem. Don't start your argument with, oh, there's a knowledge gap or a research gap. No, no, no. That comes after. Start with the problem. And I'm not saying the gaps aren't important. Of course they are important. That's part of your contribution. All right, so let's talk. What do you think about this quote? Does this seem so? What do you think about your ability to relate your argument to others' arguments? How do you feel about that? Does that seem like something that's achievable? What do you think about the analogy of the wall? So, your field of study, all the researchers out there, they're building a wall. I don't know. I don't know why what are they blocking out? Building a wall of solutions, let's call it. And the wall's made of bricks, and everybody's adding a brick. So you could be in a field of study where the wall is really tiny so far. There's not many people in there yet. Or you could be in a field of study that's been around since, I don't know, the 19th century. Okay, your wall's going to be really big. Doesn't mean you can't add to it though, does it? Because you're one brick. Thoughts? Okay. In the chat, I can see this in scoping and systematic reviews. Yes. Yes. And so what that tells us is that a scoping and systematic review still has a problem, doesn't it? Why would you be doing it? Why would you be doing the scoping or systematic review? There's still a problem in there somewhere. Maybe you're figuring out where it is. So we've got this knowledge here, but we still need some more. So there's still going to be an argument and there's still going to be claims for significance. Good. It's definitely achievable because your work needs to build on existing research and add to it. Yep. Yes. Great. So the other thing I would also point out is that, excuse me, when you're doing your literature review then, and you're reading another article, so this is lit review for your article, for your thesis, whatever, any kind of lit review, what I'd want you to do then, and maybe you already do this, but I bet a lot of you don't, is when you're reading and writing up the summary or writing up, starting to say what you're going to do to discuss it in the literature review, make sure you're aware of their research problem, their research aims, and therefore their argument. Okay? Because if you're relating your argument to others' arguments, then you need to understand what their arguments are in the first place, right? So this is all part of your critical analysis. That's another thing we often isn't quite demonstrated in your writing. Okay, if supervisors are saying you need more critical analysis, that's what they're meaning. So it's really getting into somebody else's paper, their research article or whatever it is, their research project, and say, okay, well, what are they arguing? What's the problem here? And then what did they find as the insight or the solution? Okay. And so they found these things, right? But what they haven't, which is good, right? They found these great things, but they've gone off on a different tangent or they've got this other bit and you're bringing it back here. You're not saying what they've done is no good just because they've gone in a different direction. But that's the thing. You have to relate your argument to their arguments. And therefore, you must be able to understand what their argument is, right? Someone else said, you need to relate your work to other people's work in the introduction and discussion. Yes, and the literature review, obviously. So the introduction's generally more of a setting up of the story, and then the lit review goes there. However, you're right, because I don't know if you've noticed this. So again, this is why I want you to really notice when you're reading not just the content, but in a lot of journals, the introduction and the lit review are the same thing, right? There's all a section at the beginning. So there's no section in many articles that says literature review. It's all part of the introduction, right? So you need to be aware what your target journal needs for that. All right, good. So, why are these two strategies important then? So, the number one reason for rejection, remember, was no clear argument. So, there you go. That's the reason. Or sometimes, as we said, there's too many arguments, there's too much going on. Remember, that was one of the things that led to rejection. The third reason why these strategies are important is because your article needs to be structured around that argument and the reasons why it's important. So those two threads, hey, there's a research problem and I'm arguing that. And the reason why you should care is all of these reasons, and here's my evidence. Your whole paper is structured around those two things, right? You keep bringing it back and bringing it back and bringing it back to the argument and why it matters. So, because these strategies are so important, we are not waiting to page 4 to tell the reader about it. We are saying straight up in the abstract and in the introduction, the argument, the problem needs to be there. Then the rest of the article is organized around that. And that leads us to the value of your study. Starting off, hey, there's a problem. This is why you should care about it. Then you give me the rest of your story and what you found. And then at the end, you say, see, here's my contribution. I found these insights. I found these solutions. Okay, you've got a narrative. Righto. So we need to state the argument early and then we position the claims for significance within the ongoing dialogue in the field, the contribution to current knowledge. So remember, you've got the contribution towards the stakeholders, helping them to find a solution to their problem, and you are adding to the current knowledge because you are addressing and putting your findings into the ongoing dialogue. Now, maybe by now, you should be pretty clear about the problem and then the significance, but they overlap as well. And that's why sometimes it can be a bit confusing. Is this my problem or is this the significance? So don't worry for now. Well, do worry actually. What you will be doing over time, and this is the same for your research project for your thesis, is really being able to very specifically articulate the problem and then why it matters. Okay, so that'll be a work in progress, and the time you spend on getting those right will be really important. So, clearly explain your research contributes better understanding or find solutions to a problem impacting stakeholders. Or maybe there's a debate that hasn't been resolved. That's a good one. That's really putting in your brick into the wall of the scholarly knowledge that we have. So it can take time, um, and the draft writing process will help you to articulate those well. In the chat, my research is designed to build upon previous studies, not by repeating them, but by contributing as a complementary extension. Yeah, exactly. That's what we all want to do. Extending. Remember the quote at the beginning. Okay. You are you're placing your argument within the scholarly conversation. Okay. Belcher has a really great analogy that she uses where she says, imagine you arrive at a conference, okay, and you're a little bit late, you've arrived at morning tea, and you find your colleagues who've met some other people, from a different university maybe, and there's about four or five of them, and they're talking about the previous presentation maybe, and then you arrive oh my gosh, sorry, I'm late, and they're like, yeah, hey, well, nice to see you. What do you do when you arrive into that conversation and you haven't seen the presentation yourself? Do you just start talking and be like, oh, yeah, I know this about the topic. Oh, I know this. I'm doing this. No. Wouldn't you listen to your colleagues initially? You'd be like, okay, what was that presentation like? Oh, yeah, they did this and that. And then they would talk. And then you would then put your comment in. It's exactly the same, right? You have, a scholarship of knowledge and of understanding that's already there, and then you want to put your new thing in, you will go and listen and understand and get that understanding, and then you will put forward what your thoughts are and your evidence. You wouldn't just start talking straight away and ignore anything that they were bringing to the scholarship initially. I hope that makes sense. Basically, you wouldn't butt in and make it all about you initially. Or maybe you would. Hopefully, no. Righto. Here's an example. Oh, so I need to pop the activity sheet in for you. One sec. Righto. Have a little read. Um, just realized I used this example last week. So hopefully, or maybe it wasn't. Anyway, here's our example. And this is about, yeah, the difference between the problem and the gap. It's not a trick. I want you to see what about the first. So if it didn't say, maybe I should take research problem subheading and research gap away to see if you could figure out which was which. But it's about the words. Can you see a difference? And by looking at this example, my aim here is to help you in your articulating of the problem and the gap, and to make sure you're not using the words we use when we talk about the gap when you're talking about the problem, because then that's confusing for the reader. Okay, we want to make it very, very explicit about the problem you're investigating, which is about the stakeholders. Okay, so what do you notice? There's overlap, which is fine. You're always going to have the overlap. Are you going to make me do it? You can hear my voice. I need to talk less. Ah, yay. Righto, in the chat. Problem is that there is still a prevalence of smoking among young people. Research gap is these young people have not been interviewed to understand why they've been unable to quit smoking. Yes. Perfect. Perfect. Yes. Look at the words. Okay. So I've got the problems in green, the claims for significance. The claims for significance are about the literature and the gap, but also the stakeholders. We're going to do a deep dive into this in a minute, and this is why it can get confusing. There's significance about the problem and there's significance about the gap. Okay. So we can see here from my highlighting the overlap. The stakeholders are still part of the gap. They can't be the only gap though, necessarily. There's usually more than one gap. Righto. Smoking is the single most preventable cause of premature death in the developed world. What do you think about that? That's pretty heavy, and it's also a little bit persuasive about why we should care, would you not say? Do you think premature death is good? No. Do you think that smoking being the most preventable cause? So, see how words are really important. If they said smoking is the main cause of premature death, we wouldn't be thinking of this idea that it's preventable, would we? Or maybe we would. But it's not up as the reader to think about that. It's up to the writer to make us think. Smoking is the single most preventable cause of premature death in the developed world. Health education campaigns have helped. Now, health education campaigns, nothing about the scholarship, nothing about the knowledge, nothing about the literature. Just that, well, there have been health education campaigns and they've helped reduce the prevalence, but it's persisting. What else do you notice about the words in there? Worrying levels. Right? How do you feel about that? Is it too subjective for you? I don't mind it. Worrying levels of smoking persist, and then we've narrowed to young people. This is such a good example for you to build your um, to build your articulation and crafting of your problem. Okay? See the narrow. We start off with this, hey, premature death. Ah, bad. And not only that, young people. Do we want young people to prematurely die? No. Do we want anyone to prematurely die? No. Right. Worrying levels. So you should, by sentence two, be already going, oh, okay. This is the impact we want to have on the reader. Understanding the motives and experiences of young people seeking to quit smoking. The motives and experiences of young people seeking to quit smoking, that's giving us a really good idea of what's being investigated and measured. Motives and experiences can provide valuable insight to what? to add to the body of knowledge? Nope. To improve the health education and support for young smokers who want to quit. It's even narrowed even more. So it's not just young smokers, it's ones who want to quit. It's very, very clear. And any person looking at that will be like, oh, yeah, that seems like something that's worthwhile investigating. Then we come down to the gap. Previous research, right, straight away we know, now we're into the previous knowledge, has focused on efforts to deter young people. Okay, so we're back to stakeholders from starting to smoke. There has been little attention paid to the factors and circumstances related to young smokers who self initiate giving up smoking. There you go, we've got another phrase here, self initiate. That's a good one. So that'll be all through the paper or all through the study. Okay. Little attention paid, good phrase. Paid to the factors and circumstances. So, factors and circumstances, does that align with motives and experiences? Yeah. Okay. Examining the real world experiences of young people who have tried and failed or tried and succeeded, getting even more information now, to quit smoking can contribute new knowledge to the field of health education. Real world experiences of young people. Okay. Good example. All right, let's keep going. So that was a bit of a wrap up of the principles and what we need to do. Now let's get further in. Okay, these are our strategies. Of course, argument and claims for significance. We're going to talk about drafting an abstract. We're going to talk about the best target journal and targeting it early or selecting it early, and readability and coherence. Okay, 4 things. Well, actually 5, because number 1 is 2 things. All right. How are you feeling about arguments and claims? Let's break it down again. The argument persuades the reader there is a research problem. Okay, because you're going to give us evidence and that it hasn't been addressed or solved previously. So it's still all about the stakeholders. Okay, it positions your research in the ongoing dialogue. Remember, we want that. Remember the analogy of being at a conference and you're arriving later. They're already talking. You're going to listen to them first and then you're going to add your part. So, why is the research needed? That's the problem. Then, why the problem matters and for who about the claims. Okay. And again, same thing. The claims position your research in the ongoing dialogue as well. It extends the argument. So, 2 things that are slightly different, they're overlapping, but they're all part of the ongoing dialogue and they're all part of the contributions or value. Right. Okay. So, here's our first activities just about to come up. So, let's, sorry, dogs are barking. Remember what you wrote at the beginning about your motivation to publish and potential obstacles? Look back at what you wrote and think to yourself, are any of those obstacles coming up as we go through so far? Is there imposter syndrome? You're not sure where to start? Someone in the chat said, yep, I had all those. My favorite one is procrastination. I'll tell you why later. Okay, so let's quickly look at what we could do today. So, first of all, if you don't write, there's no publication. All right. Getting words on the page, that should be your aim initially, and then you make those words better and better, obviously, with feedback and revision. So, for today at least, let's work on this. Let's resist imposter syndrome. You have the knowledge, you have the expertise, you have the skills. Yes, you're still building those, but you have a great start. We're resisting imposter syndrome. Think about all the reading you've done so far, and um, they published, didn't they? Why can't you? Okay, we're resisting imposter syndrome today. Then I want you to think of all the experiences very quickly where you were a successful writer. You're here. You're at QT. You obviously wrote something to get into your degree, right? I'm pretty sure that you weren't just welcomed in by saying, "Hi, I want to do a degree at your university, dear QUT." You wrote something, it's been accepted. You're now sitting here and in your candidature. You're not busy now, you're here. So if it's about busyness, oh, I'm always so busy. You're not busy now. Although maybe you're multitasking. Oh, okay. Well, that's all right. You're at home, probably. No one can see, only you know. But you could stop yourself from multitasking for a minute, couldn't you? Now, no procrastination now because we're here. We're engaging in article writing activities that are going to help you get started. So let's go. So these, right? Where to start? I'm going to help you do that. You're not busy now. We're not procrastinating. We're here, and there is no imposter syndrome anywhere in this Zoom session. None. Righto. So check your draft. If you don't have a draft yet, write some dot points down about what your key argument might be, right? Are there ways that arguments are put forward in your field? That's another thing I want you to notice when you're reading. Okay, when you're reading research articles in particular, qualitative and quantitative would probably be worded differently. We will look at examples soon, and we did look at another example before, didn't we? So, what's your key argument? What is the problem impacting a research population that you want to investigate? And then, why does the problem matter? For who? And where are the gaps in the knowledge? Okay. Now, we don't need citations or anything in this. Just say what you know, write some dot points. If you've got a draft, go in and have a look at what it is, see where you can find your research problem. And if you can see it and it's clear, fantastic. If you can sort of see it, but you're not sure if it's clear, how could you make it clear? Okay. Both are essential. You have to write, so why not start writing now? So you're either checking your draft and writing dot points or you're just writing dot points. Now, these drafts are the product of your thinking. Remember, I said to you too that it will take a while for you to be able to really articulate that argument in a very clear way. Crafting your argument will take some time. Maybe you've already got it though, but if you haven't got it yet, that's okay. You're getting the story clear in your mind. These messy draft stages are essential, so don't panic. This is where your imposter syndrome, you need to tell it to go away. Oh, what I've got here is not very good. Oh, can I really do this? Yes, you can. The fact that it's not good yet. It's not good yet. Right. If you're not sure how to start, this article argues that. I know some of you are going to go, oh my God, I would never write that in a million years. And that's fine, but maybe you just needed to get started. Despite previous research on something, little is known about something. I'm not overly keen on you starting that. You couldn't put that as your first sentence. Don't start a sentence with despite, but later on you could bring it. What about the next one? While research on something has provided valuable insights, we still don't know about this thing. So those three, the the despite the while and the although, they're not your very first sentence, are they? Because they're about the previous studies. This article argues that there is a problem with something. Okay, all right, I'm going to give you a couple of minutes with this one. No right or wrong, just right. Don't overthink and get that imposter syndrome away. Okay, so I want you to actually keep going with that, and we're going to extend it. Okay, not now, but what we're going to do is test out your argument and claim with a two-sentence elevator pitch. Okay, what's an elevator pitch? A concise summary that clearly communicates the research problem and its significance. Two-sentence research pitch for later. Okay, we'll see if we can share some of them later, not now. Okay, sentence one, the research problem, why it matters. Sentence two, how your research addresses it. I don't know why it says there. Sorry. And then I'll get you to share later. Okay, so you can be refining it as we go. A written elevator pitch. So I please, please have at least a few of you do this. I would love that. When we've done it before, they've been fantastic. No judging, by the way, but I do want just two sentences. Okay. I won't judge if there's a grammar mistake or if something's a bit not quite right. We'll know what you mean. Okay. Here's two examples. One's from STEM, one's from education. Both of them are in first person, which, because it's easier, I guess, you probably will not be writing in first person, but I don't mind you doing it if that's easier for this particular one, this particular activity. I'll let you have a read of them. I'll ask you to share. Um, I don't know if the STEM one's all that good, to be honest. It's not really saying, mm, it's saying what it's doing, but I think that one could be better. Maybe we'll make it better. We'll try and make it better later. Why it matters. Yeah, no, it is how the research addresses it, though. Yeah, and threatening biodiversity. Yeah, no, actually, it's probably okay. All right, let's keep moving. Right. The second strategy, so we've done the first one, which was the argument and the claims for significance. Now, drafting an abstract early in the process. This might be something you've not done before. Maybe you leave the abstract till the end, which is okay, but think about doing it earlier. Why not wait until the end? A well-written abstract helps editors and peer reviewers to quickly understand your research. It hooks readers in and gets your article cited. What do you feel? What do you normally do? Do you normally wait till the end? What do you do as a reader? Do you read the abstract first up and then how do you know whether to go ahead and read it? Thoughts? Why am I suggesting to draft an abstract early in the process rather than waiting until the end? Ideas? Well, I mean, Belcher says, give the structure for yourself, yep, and what to be included, yep, tells you where your gaps might be as far as what you still need to write. Go with the abstract first to evaluate whether the literature has any significance to my study. Yeah, well, that's what you do. Yeah, exactly. You read the abstract that, and so when you're the reader, so this tells us how important the abstract is. Okay, it's going to hook potential readers in. So I'm suggesting as a strategy, draft an abstract early in the process. Don't wait until the end. So what does that look like? Yeah, so someone in the chat just said, yeah, I usually write it last, but thinking about it now, writing it early could help structure my thinking and help the drafting process. That's it. You got it in one. A good chronology to when and where include different ideas. Perfect. Thank you. That's excellent. So why? To help work out an effective structure, to help you craft your argument and claims for significance. It's a sales pitch. It might take time to get right. I do know a lot of people think, oh, it'll only take me a little bit to write the abstract. Not if you want it to be as best as it can be. It forces you to clarify the topic and argument, diagnose which sections need more work. So, read abstracts in your target journal to check the structure and content, check the author guidelines. That'll tell you how many words it can be. And as always, seek feedback. So, this is Belcher's ingredients of a good abstract. Summarizes it, doesn't just introduce it, tells a story, states the problem, states the argument and supports or explains that argument, reveals the valuable findings, methods briefly. Now, I've said there in no more than one sentence. Maybe you have a target journal that needs more than that. Strong verbs, not vague ones. So important. Your verbs, strong verbs. Remember our example of worrying before? I'm not saying that's a good verb for you, but it's strong, right? Includes keywords, reports what the researchers did, not what they hoped to do. So do all these apply to your field of study or target journal? Maybe not. You've got to check that. Righto, we're going to examine example abstracts. You have those in your activity sheet that I uploaded. Does anyone not have the activity sheet? Let me know in the chat and I'll upload it again. Okay, so I want you to please start reading. You don't have to read them all. Choose one and tell me. We're going to talk about them in a minute. As in, you're going to talk about them, not just me, please. You've got the guidelines of a good abstract. All right, so everyone's got the activity sheet. Excellent. I'm just going to go out of the slides. I'll be back in a second. Okay, so ingredients of a good abstract. Please, please, if you're here, pop some of your thoughts in the chat. So we've got example one. Summarizes the article, doesn't just introduce it. Example one. Well, we've sort of got the findings there. Is it stating the problem? Hmm. So post-earthquake fire, can you see the problem? Aha, so someone in the chat has said example one's clear, example two isn't. All right, that's good. Thank you. So post-earthquake fire is considered one of the most high risk. So straight away we've got okay, most high risk and complicated problems affecting buildings in urban areas and can cause even more damage than the earthquake itself. So there's the problem, right? Something that actually I was surprised by. Okay. Yeah, the problem's clear. Yeah. And they haven't had to say this problem is, well, they've just used their words. Good. And urban areas. However, so straight away, this is good. However, right now we know, problem. Most standards and codes ignore the implications. And so buildings are not normally designed with post-earthquake fire in mind. Good. Good problem. What is needed is for post-earthquake fire factors to be routinely scrutinized. That's a good word. And codified. Mm, nice. So this is why it's important. A systematic application is presented as a means of mitigating the risk. So their outcome is a systematic application. This covers both existing buildings in terms of retrofit and those yet to be designed to ensure the mitigation strategy meets the defined criteria. So the mitigation strategy must be linked to this systematic application. A minimum time is defined, the safety guaranteed time target, where the safety of the inhabitants in the building is guaranteed. So I don't actually get what they mean by a minimum time. Maybe the, mm, but that, because maybe that's because we're not in the, we're not in the field. But we would then go along and read the article. Look at that, Journal of Risk Research. Okay. So people reading that would understand about risks and they might even understand the time bit. All right. Example two. So perceptions of graduate attribute development and application in PhD graduate attribute development. With increasing focus on the outcomes of doctoral education, especially regarding employability, we aim to explore how PhD graduates from humanities and social sciences and science disciplines perceive the development of a holistic set of graduate attributes during their doctoral study and the application of these attributes in the workplace. Whew, long. So do you think that's the problem? Employability and outcomes? So if they're exploring, do you think that we don't really know the outcomes very well, or particularly around employability? I guess that seems to be it. And so we're going to see whether these graduates, did they develop these attributes during their study? Okay. And then were they able to put them in the workplace? So there's a lot going on here, isn't there? Okay, there's the methods. We analysed 136 survey responses and interviews. We found that overall PhD graduates are satisfied. Okay, so findings, but had concerns regarding some. Okay. Graduates from the three universities perceived application in the workplace similarly. Comparisons to the development revealed required better support. Okay. So actually, this one is revealing the problem, would you say? So there's an increased focus on outcomes, especially outcomes for employability. So let's see. Let's explore. Okay. And obviously, these researchers already knew that there was potential that there was going to be some of these skills and attributes were going to be concerning. While development of effective attributes related to global citizen was lower, graduates perceived these were not required. Universities should consider how their doctoral training programs can promote a more holistic development. Okay. So there's some stakeholders that can do something about it. We provide a possible categorization to evaluate attainment of desirable attributes to ensure researchers and institutions are targeting. So this is almost in reverse. We think there's a problem. We're going to explore it. Let's see. This is what we found. Okay, so from what we found, we're going to categorize to evaluate. Okay. So a little bit harder then, potentially. All right. Is this, yep, example three. So when we're looking, the most valuable findings are there. Um, reports what the researcher did, not what they hoped to do. We aim to explore. Okay, so they explored and that's what they found. Probably a lot less, lot more complex than this one as far as the abstract goes. Okay, what about this one? Developing a community of research practice. Anyone got any thoughts on this one? Example three, generally good words used to persuade the reader. Research assessment could have been explained in an additional sentence. This is not really a link between problem and methodology and communities of practice. There is not really a link between the problem and methodology and communities of practice, although it is implied. Perfect. Thank you. Good. Yes. Righto. Writing journals is essential. Journal articles. Okay. So setting up the problem, bop, 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 bop. So that's just a statement. Research assessment makes successful performance even more. This article describes a course on writing journal articles and draws on interviews 1 year after. Oh, so they did a writing course, but they've still got challenges. These writers' accounts make visible some of the processes that are often tacit and identify key writing strategies. Righto. So, what's the problem? The problem is got to write journal articles. It's important for all these reasons. These participants went and they did a writing journal article course, kind of like the one writing your journal article. And then the participants were interviewed 1 year later, and even though the course was useful, the challenges were persisting. Ah, I wonder why. Righto, well, they're going to tell us what are the things. However, they also identify barriers. Ooh, so the problem has come up as part of the investigation again, hasn't it? So obviously the researchers knew, yeah, we think that there's a problem. Let's talk to the people and let's exactly define what the problem is. There's barriers, and so we're going to suggest these things. So again, yeah, the problem is there, meaning, you know, the problem's actually assumed by the researchers. I'm sure later on she's got all her evidence about it. So the evidence in the literature would say, yeah, writing journal articles is hard. So she says, okay, well, let's see. Let's see exactly what's hard about it. And then let's legitimize the writing process. Oh, how good would that be? Okay. So there's all different ways to write an abstract. Okay. This one's interest and obviously where it's published is really important because you've got a different audience, right? Look at this, International Business Review. The art of writing. Hello, sorry. The art of writing literature review. What do we know? What do we need to know? Hmm. A literature review article provides a comprehensive overview of literature related to blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Systematic literature reviews have great value, yet there are not many reviews published describing how researchers can do these classic review articles. That's the problem. So we're going to help solve the problem. That's pretty cool. By outlining steps and thumb rules to keep in mind, we present an overview of different types of review articles and explain how it could be useful. We introduced 9 articles finally selected for this special issue. La la la. Okay, that one's fairly simple. Good. All right. So I am going to go back to the slides. Okay, so what did we learn here? Okay, we learned that there is many ways to write an abstract, okay, and they're not always that simple. But the key thing here is your target journal will have lots of examples. for you to make your abstract to fit with that target journal. All right. Strategy three, select the right target journal early on. So you're writing the abstract early on, you're selecting an appropriate journal early on. So again, this is something that a lot of people wait until the end to do. And I'm suggesting don't do that. And Belch is suggesting that because then you can write specifically for your target audience. Okay, all the way through. So, what's due diligence mean? Taking steps to understand which journal is best for your article. This helps target the most appropriate journal and avoid desk rejection. Because remember what we said, that's going to happen if you're outside the scope. Taking steps to understand which journal is best for your article. Even if you have a short list of two or three, that's fine. But doing it early in the process, you'll know your audience. You can start looking at this author guidelines, and then you can go in and look at the model articles as well and use those to help with your structure. So, if you ensure the journal that you select is a good fit for your article, you're much more likely to be successful. Make a short list. Maybe there's journals you read a lot. Start there. Look at the scope. Are they peer reviewed? What's the rejection rate, turnaround time, impact? What's your publication strategy? Do you need Q1s or does it not matter? Maybe you find one and you go, well, it doesn't quite fit this current article, but my next one it will. Two common reasons for rejection: doesn't fit the journal scope, author and submission guidelines not followed. We're not doing this. This is not us. So I'm going to give you a minute to think about what journal you should target. These are the ones often published in Springer Nature, Wiley, Taylor and Francis, Sage, Elsevier. So review the publishers, the journals, and the other thing to check out is what do they say about use of AI tools. Okay. Scoping or systematic lit reviews, super important to select a journal that publishes those types of articles. Can always write to the editor and ask them. So there's your selection checklist. That's all about your due diligence there. All right. GT Library has so many great resources around all these things. Publication metrics, how to avoid predatory journals and conferences. Okay. It's all there. I'll send you the links when I send you the email with the recording and everything. So much that is in the library to help with this. You also have liaison librarians for your faculty to help you to unpack all this. The library do workshops around all of this. They are your go-to for these sorts of things. Okay, so let's have a quick look and unpacking of some of the key um, parts about impact and rankings. So, impact factor measures the average number of citations within a particular time frame, usually 2 or 3 years. So, a higher impact factor means articles are widely read and cited. This is good, influence in the field. It's not the only measure though. So, journals with lower impact might still be highly respected because they might be more niche, like the one about risk, that first example in the abstracts. So high impact factors are often more general. Impact factor and Q1 and Q2 are usually correlated. So Q1 is the top 25% with the highest impact factor because they're cited widely. Q2 is the next 25%. So a solid reputation. They might not have the same level of influence, but they're still influential. Okay, but they're also ranked based on editorial board, the publishing frequency, the research scope. There's a whole lot of stuff. So please go in and have a look at all of the library information. What about using AI? Now, I asked ChatGPT to tell me this probably about 3 months ago, so it could have changed by now. So Springer Nature, cannot be credited as authors in publication. Human authors are responsible for the validity and integrity. So, does that mean you can use them or not? I don't know. You'd have to go in and look more closely. No AI generated images. Taylor and Francis, again, can't be listed as authors, but you can acknowledge and document if you use them transparently and appropriately. No, no images. Regarding QT, the principles here are that you need to talk to your principal supervisor about how you use AI and always be transparent in any way you use AI tools. And, this idea of responsible use is nothing new. We've always had to be responsible researchers with honesty, rigor, transparency, fairness, respect, recognition, accountability, promotion. They are in the Australian Code of Responsible Research Conduct. QT has a code as well. Okay, so the AI use is an extension of the ethical responsibilities we already have. I will pop into the email that I send you more information about the AI tool training that QT has. All right, I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to check a journal of your choice right now. If you don't already have a target journal, think of one that you use a lot for your own literature review, um, and have a quick look. You won't have that much time to go in and have too much of a look, but maybe you can go onto their website, or not maybe, I would like you to go onto the website. So here's an example of mine. So you're going to have some positive signs and a red flag that you need to check more deeply. So studies in higher education is my example. Rigorous peer review process, high academic standards and credibility, but the impact factor is low. So why might that be? So higher education journal is 2.5 impact factor and review of higher education journal is 2.7. So I need to look at that more fully to figure out, well, maybe I shouldn't do studies in higher education. Maybe I should go with one of the other two with the higher impact factor. All right, I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to do a little quick, rapid journal review of one of yours. Okay, someone in the chat said the journal that I picked looked good, but it had an impact factor of Q4. Right. Now, so then do you still target it? Maybe. Depends on what you require at this point. If you need a Q1 or Q2, well, then you know, okay, I might have to put that one to the side for now. But if it doesn't matter and you're which one you target, and you think it's really perfect for your article, well, having a publication is still going to be good, right? So it's really about weighing up, isn't it? So this is why I suggest you do this journal reviewing quite early on, so that you can really target what you write towards the audience and the needs for that journal. It's the most specific journal for my field in Australia and New Zealand. Yeah. Yeah, so perhaps the field is specific. Absolutely. What's the population of Australia and New Zealand compared to the rest of the world? It's tiny. So that would be why it has the impact factor like that. So then that means go back and you've recognized then why, and maybe it's not so much of a red flag. It's better that you go and target your specific audience that you want. How to find the required grade when publishing my PhD articles. Yeah, you'll have to go in and ask your supervisor, have a look at the requirements for your degree. Talk to your liaison librarian because every field, every school is going to be different towards what you need regarding the Q level. Good question though. Okay, let's get into strategy 4. So, strategy 1, argument claims for significance. Strategy 2, draft your abstract early. Strategy 3, Select your target journal early. Strategy 4, we want are all about readability and coherence. Readability, how easily a reader can understand a text based on things like sentence structure, word choice, clarity of the argument, and what they're trying to say. Coherence. Okay, logical flow and connections ideas within a text, ensuring sentences and paragraphs work together to convey a clear, unified message. So, readability and coherence really do overlap. Okay, that's what we're looking for. So, readability checklist is about sentence structure, word choice. So, we're looking at the micro level of the document. Sentence structure and word choice. Coherence, we're looking at the macro level, the flow all the way through, the consistency of ideas. Why? Because it's all about the reader. Both readability and coherence are about the reader. Everything's about the reader. Keep clear in your mind who is your audience for this target journal. So our example in the chart, Australians and New Zealanders. So we probably don't necessarily need to talk too much about what the rest of the world doing. Or maybe if we're wanting to say they do it better or we do it better, that's what you're deciding. You're not writing for yourself. You need to get in the reader's shoes. You need to notice how others in your field write, and you need to give feedback to others. Seek feedback, give feedback. Your article is a reader-writer dialogue. So the more you have practice being a reader and a writer, reader, writer, reader, writer, then the better you'll be. So you are persuading the reader to care about your research. You need to be persuasive. What did you think about those abstracts? Were they persuasive? I felt like they were for the people they were targeted at. Yes. If the argument and significance of your research is not clear, the communication, the dialogue will fail. So remember what we said at the start. Don't try to do too much. That's what I see all the time. It's too busy. There's too many things going on. Maybe you can write 2 or 3 papers with the data you have. Okay, we don't want that lack of focus. That's hard for readers. It means the readability and coherence are all jumbled up. So, how do we know if we've got readability and coherence? We need to seek feedback. You cannot improve in isolation. You need to have interactions with others. You need to develop relationships and seek feedback and be an effective participant in the process. Okay, ask specific questions. Hey, I'd like feedback on the readability. Are the sentences clear? Do the words make sense? Am I using too much jargon? Not enough. Okay. The more feedback you receive, the better you're going to be at seeking it. And to know they're not critiquing you, okay? And they're making suggestions about how you can make your document better. So we've got a feedback hub that is new. Of course, you can seek feedback from supervisors and peers and family and friends, but if you'd like to get better at the feedback process, we have our researcher feedback hub. Next one is on this Friday at 8 a.m. Nice and early. Get your Friday off to a great start, and then you can go and do other things. Right. Do you have your elevator pitch ready? Hmm. Interesting. We looked at that, didn't we? Anyone got a pitch that they want to share? 2 sentence research pitch. Now, we haven't got much time left, so I would like you to be putting them in the chat and I'll come back to those. Righto. So, share, if you would like to share your pitch. Why does it say share their pitch with the group now? Oh, because it says volunteers can share. Sorry. All right. So you're putting your pictures in. Please don't disappoint me. If I can just have a couple, I will be so, so happy. I'm going to keep going though, and you're going to be putting your pictures in and I'm going to read them out and they're going to be great. Righto. So, how are you going to improve your writing skills? Well, firstly, by writing and sharing it in the chat with your elevator pitch, please. Please, please, please. I haven't got any yet. Oh, nope. Thought I got one. Righto. How do you improve your writing skills? You read, and I want you to not just read for content. Notice, notice how they write. What are they writing? How do they talk about the problem and the evidence and the gaps? And how do they write about their methodology? And on we go. Ask questions about what you're reading. Hmm, what's going on here? What assumptions do they have? What are they trying to do? And you need to write and you need to seek feedback and you need to talk about research and writing with me, with your friends, with your peers, with your supervisor. Okay. So we do have an exemplar. You have it there in your um, activity sheet. We're going to quickly pull it up and do it together. We don't actually have time to go in the breakouts. I bet you're all cheering about that. Oh, I've got one pitch, except for it's one sentence. Can you make it into two for me? Yep. So you've got why it's important. Now I need to know what the problem is. Oh, and I've got another one. Okay, we're going to come back to those in a minute. Yay, keep them coming. So we're going to examine an exemplar. We're not going to go in, but we're going to do this now together because we haven't actually got too much more to do. We just finish up. All right. So keep them coming while I swapped back to the activity sheet. Okay. I really like this article. I want you to notice an International Journal of Physical Therapy. All right. Very specific. Have a look at the title, The Physiotherapy Consultation, a qualitative study of the experience of parents of infants with cystic fibrosis in Australia. That is such a great title. Why do you think I think it's great? Oh, I'm going to read out your pictures in a second. Keep them coming. What's so good about this? Super clear, qualitative study, parents of infants. Yeah, great. All right, let's come down. Now, you will notice that some of your target journals might do the abstract like this. Okay. Kind of makes it easy, but you could do this anyway in your draft, couldn't you? Background, objective, methods, results, and then just take the subheadings out. Interesting. All right, let's have a look at the introduction and see what we think. Cystic fibrosis is a chronic inherited condition typified by a progressive decline in respiratory health. Good. Now we know what it's about. Physiotherapy is an integral component of care regimen and aims to slow the decline of lung function. Yep, that seems important. Then we narrow in the Australian context. Stats. Nice. 87 new diagnoses were made each year between the years with up to 70% made in the first year of life. That doesn't sound good for a baby, does it? Then we go physiotherapy education is delivered to parents shortly after diagnosis. Yep, okay. Parents of infants are frequently responsible for conducting the physiotherapy. This is on a daily basis. Early provision is required to enable parents to perform physiotherapy independently. However, now we get it in. Parents' educational needs may vary between individuals and across the dynamic period of growth, behavior, and behavior change displayed by their child. I'm pretty sure I can highlight that. Right. So is this the problem? Seems so. Let's come back. Physiotherapy is an essential component to explore how parents with their cystic fibrosis experience physiotherapy clinic consultations. Mm-hmm. Okay. Parents of children with a chronic illness perceive their information needs or priorities are often not met, with health professionals potentially misjudging desire, consultation, and feedback. So now they pose it up here, and then we get even more narrow. Good. Education commonly occurs. So then they're giving us a little bit of a thing about what they do. Parents have reported, so here we're in the literature review, but it's still part of the introduction. Parents have reported that cystic fibrosis clinic visits frequently fail to meet their learning expectations. Uh-huh. Righto. And so that's the problem. Agree? And guess what? There is a lack of research. So there's the gap. Problem, gap. Set the scene. Then we got more literature review, literature review, literature review. Okay. All right. We're going to jump out, but I'm hoping that by looking at this, even though it's something we don't all know about and we don't probably necessarily have any wanting to know about, it's a really good example of a well-written article that leads the reader through, and the abstract is good, and you can tell that it's at the right audience as well. Okay. All right. I'm going to just stop my share, go back to the slides, and we'll finish up. Okay. So let's have a look at remember this, we were talking about these things. So while we're also looking at our wonderful elevator pictures, maybe you can jot down some things that you can do to address these obstacles. Maybe you didn't have any at the beginning. Okay. So let's have a look at our pictures really quickly. Thank you so much. Conflict is a pervasive problem in groups and is generally poorly managed, leading to adverse outcomes for individuals and groups generally. Problem. Engaging in critically reflective practice may assist people seeking to improve their capacity to manage and respond constructively to social conflict. Yes. Fantastic. Next one. Oral health of children is highly concerning throughout the world. However, unmet treatment need for dental caries among children in developing countries is a problem to be addressed. My research question is to explore whether effectiveness of the school dental services has an impact. Nice. The application and interpretation of abstract statistical concepts by students in higher education is an enduring problem. Abstract statistical concepts, yes, nice and narrow. This study explores a teaching intervention adopting simulation-based statistics teaching in 2 courses with undergraduate STEM pre-service teachers. Love it. Beautiful. Investigating how immersive art installations can facilitate embodied healing and collective well-being in public spaces, addressing the gap in applying somatic trauma practices to public art, exploring the transformation of personal trauma narratives into accessible, community-driven healing environments. Nice. That is a lovely project. Great. Thank you so much for sharing. Hopefully you've been able to reflect back here and put into place some ways, strategies to address the obstacles. Let's have a quick look and then we'll finish up. Make writing a habit. Block and protect your writing time. Just 15 minutes of a day would be great. Make writing a daily habit. Find a writing buddy or two for feedback and critical discussion. So important. Maintain a network of positive supporters. Connect with your peers. Resist imposter syndrome. Persist if rejected. Lots of people get rejected. Okay, they're articles, not the people. Sorry. Articles get rejected. Keep positive experiences in your mind. Plan and revise regularly about where you're next up to for your article to get it going and continuing. Seek feedback, and participate in things like this. If you want to publish, you've got to write. Okay, so get a plan. Procrastination, we don't have much time for this, but the only way to give structure and substance to your thoughts is to write them down. Writing is thinking. Okay. So if you're struggling with procrastination or that you're not good enough or you don't know what to write, just write your thoughts. this is very interesting research about deferring of tasks. And this was a mathematical framework that realizes, nope, you're not just lazy. Our brain sometimes likes immediate rewards. So let's procrastinate the hard thing and do the easy thing. Or I'm not sure if my article's ever going to get published, so I'm just going to keep procrastinating. So figure out what your procrastinating behaviors are because they're about time. They're temporal decisions about time. So if you can have a writing schedule where you know, oh, I got 15 minutes of writing today, I'm going to write, 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 write. And then I'm going to have a reward because I did 15 minutes of writing on my article. Sometimes we underestimate the time needed, and that's why we procrastinate. Oh, it's going to take too long. Well, that's okay. It is going to take long, but if I just do a little 15 minutes now, that'll progress me. Maybe you've got distracting environments and you need to be somewhere where you can't be distracted. This is from Think Well. Again, let's change the thinking, especially if you're thinking of it, if you have imposter syndrome. Oh, I can't do this. I could try. I can't think of anything. I might just write about anything. I feel stupid. It'll be stupid. It's a waste of time. No, you got to turn that around. Okay. And prioritizing is a big thing with procrastination, isn't it? Oh, I'll just check my emails and then I'll do it. Oh, I need this whole big block of time to do what I need to do. Nope. You're not always going to have that big block of time. Okay. Oh, just format the tables. Oh, I'll just read one more journal article. No, you're going to write. All right. So let's finish up. You need one important new idea that links directly to helping us to solve or gain insight into a stakeholder problem. That is the argument. You need your due diligence to determine the best journal for your article and always adhere to the author guidelines. Please, please, I'm begging you, do not send off to an article to a journal without making sure you have adhered to those guidelines. Knowing your audience is going to be very helpful for the way you're writing and it can help you lead the reader through. And we're writing persuasively and critically all the way through. You're highlighting the value, and the value is you are addressing a problem and you're also helping to fill a research gap. All right. So, thank you so much for coming along. I'm sorry we didn't have more time for the exemplar, but that's okay. You've got it there. And now you've got a little bit of guidance on how to examine your articles in your target journal. What is it? Why did it get published? Where can you see those things that we're looking for, the readability and the coherence? I would love your feedback about the session. What are your needs? Is there something else I can do next year to help with this publishing? Ideas are welcome. Don't forget about the module. Keep an eye out at the beginning of next year. We've got a whole lot of other workshops in this series. We've also got our online self-paced modules. I'll pop all the information about those in the email I send with the recording. Focus weeks are really great. Maybe we should do a journal article writing focus week. There you go. We've got structure in your thesis focus week and write your research questions focus week. Yeah, we could do a focus week for journal article writing. Wow. What do you reckon? Idea? The 12-week one is all online, although we do extra Zooms. Great. Thank you for your thank yous. eGrad school's coming up next week. Any of these look good for you? eGrad school is great. So have a look at what you could potentially do in September. just very quickly, we've got a webinar series coming on, authorship, peer review, and publication. They're two fast-paced, one for before you publish or before you submit, and after. They are excellent. There's live sessions. It's on Zoom. I'll put all the information for you in the email, or you can just put it into HiQ. And we've also got our eGrad School Global Conference. We'd love to see you there on the 25th of November. Um, Thursday, Research Careers Inside Academia. Friday, Researcher Feedback Hub Zoom session. And then 15th, Structuring Your Thesis Focus Week. So there's so many things on. Okay, we made it. Thanks for your thank yous. Go and enjoy your lunch. It's been lovely to have you in the session. Thank you for engaging in the chat. If you want to send me your elevator pitch, feel free. If you want to upload it now, feel free. All right. If anyone's got any questions, please pop them in the chat or unmute if you'd like to. Please fill out the feedback survey. And if you have any questions or feedback, always email me. Love to hear from students. Okay, looks like all the questions we had through the session. No one's got another one. Okay. All right. Well, I will see you all again soon at another workshop or somewhere around the traps. Thanks so much. And I will see everyone soon.